I heard about this man who was shopping for a new dining room table. Actually, he wanted a set. So he go to one store and he explained that he needs to sit his whole family around the table. And the salesman said, "Don't worry, sir. This table you see here, you can sit down 8 people without any issues." Then the guy thinks a minute and said, "In that case, I won't take it." "How come?" "I don't think I know 8 people without issues." I want to talk to you today about bad advice. Come on, it's good. No, I like it because there's some joke that people need a few seconds to get it, right? It happened to me in the past that people would start laughing, after I go into the sermon, and then you would hear from the back, just got it. I want to talk to you again about bad advice. And this is a very important thing in this day and age. To be aware, to be careful with bad advice. And I realize that who you spend your time with, right, will have a tremendous impact. The kind of life you will live. And that could be people around you. You could be the kind of literature you read, the kind of places you visit online, and so forth. So the people that are next to you most of the time, and the places you are most of the time, will have, like it or not, this affects to everybody, no exceptions. Like it or not, will have an impact in the kind of life you're going to have. So I realize that sometimes we get surrounded by people and we read things, we visit sites, we go to places that they're amazing because they will inspire you, they will encourage you, and they will eventually make you a better person. But unfortunately, the opposite is always true. Sometimes we are surrounded by people that they will discourage us. They will, we don't know how, but somehow they manage to kill our dreams and aspirations, right? And they will sometimes even convince you to do immoral things. And this is the challenge in these days, to cling to positivity and to avoid all kind of negativity that eventually can become part of who you are. I was reading, again, this is one of my favorite passages of Pirkei Avot. Pirkei Avot chapter 2, Mishnah number 9. It's talking about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. You may remember Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He was very important during the siege of Jerusalem, but this time for the Romans, the destruction of the Second Temple. He was a great scholar. He wanted to leave Jerusalem and to continue teaching Torah. He knew that it was a matter of days or weeks before the Romans will kill everybody inside the city. So he faked his own death. Because basically when somebody, during the Roman siege, somebody will die in Jerusalem, they didn't want to have a body decomposing there, so it will be thrown outside the city. So that was the only way out. So he faked his own death. So he will go out, and eventually he made a deal with a Roman general, and he opened his yeshiva outside Jerusalem in the city of Yavne. Okay, so Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, big figure in rabbinic Judaism. So it says this section of Pirkei Avot about Yochanan ben Zakkai. He got his top students, and he said, go around, leave the yeshiva for a bit, and go around and discover by yourself. Forget about the books and everything. Discover by yourself what is the best way a person can go living their lives. Okay, eventually they came back, and then it was Rabbi Eliezer, and he said, a good eye, right? To judge everybody a positive way, a good eye. In Judaism, we have good eye and bad, like an ayin hara, the evil eye, the jealousy and all that. That's why some people will wear either the red string or a blue pendant to stop the evil eye. But so I say, Rabbi Eliezer, good thing to go around is to have a good eye. Then Rabbi Joshua said, a good friend. Very important to have a good friend next to you everywhere you go. Then Rabbi Yosef said, a good neighbor. It's important to be surrounded by positive people, to have good mentors and so forth. And eventually Rabbi Eleazar said, a good heart. Interesting, because Rabbi Yochanan said, I prefer the words of Rabbi Eleazar, a good heart, because that includes all the others, right? And it's true. But then the rabbis comment about this, and they said, although it's true that the best thing we can develop in our lives is a good heart, it's not sustainable. You can develop through discipline, through study, a good heart, but it's not sustainable unless you are surrounded by good friends, good neighbors, and good mentors to keep you in that place. That is the sad reality, and it happened to all of us. Sometimes we work hard to get out of trouble, to make our lives better. Sometimes we beat addictions and many other things, and it's great. But then we have to stay there. And how do you stay there? By surrounding yourself with positive people, by reading things that will encourage you, by visiting places that will make you better. So, we come now to this week's Parsha, Shabbat Pinchas. And what happened here? Remember I told you during the Torah service that this is a continuation. Last week's was Balak. When we talk about Bilam, the wizard who tried to curse the people of Israel, and he failed. He couldn't do that because God told Bilam, look, these are blessed people. They're amazing people. So you can't curse them. So Bilam ended up blessing them. Matovu o alecha Yaakov. Bilam praised Israel's synagogues. Bilam praised Israel's houses of study. Positive places, right? Places that can make you better. You come to shul, you study Torah, that make you a better person. So he had no other option but to recognize that and to bless them. So basically he failed. He tried to get all this money from Balak, but he couldn't. Wait a moment. According to the rabbis, Bilam failed on that episode, but what he did, he went to Balak and said, dude, this is not the way you can beat them. What you have to do is convince, the women, the Moabites, the Midianites, to come to Israel and to tempt them, to push them to worship idols, to sin, and to distract them from going to synagogue or to study Torah. And then you will see that you don't need to curse them. They are going to bring the curse upon themselves once they become immoral people. And that's exactly what Balak did. He sent these women to tempt them. And they fall into temptation. And they stopped going to synagogue. And they stopped studying Torah. And eventually it ended in tragedy when Pinchas came and he kills 2 people. And on top of that was a plague that God sent, starting to kill even more people among the people of Israel. And they said, how do we go from Matovu Alecha Yaakov, all these amazing blessings, to all this immorality and death and killing at the end? What happened? Forget about the details of the parsha. Always look for the general principle. You know what happened? They allowed bad influence to enter into their lives. They allowed these influences to distract them from learning Torah, from clinging to God, from becoming better people. And eventually, because of all that bad influence, peer pressure, because if one is doing it, you have to do it too, right? That's the way it is. If your friends are doing something bad, then eventually you will end up doing what your friends do. That's why it's so important for us, when we read this, to understand the general principle, and it is to recognize that and to find ways to surround ourselves by good friends and surround ourselves with good literature and surround ourselves by going to good places. Have you know, if you ever noticed, and I've been reading a little bit after we all read this assassination in the United States against the ex-president, right? You know what the first things, in any attempt or mass shooting or everything, what is the first thing the police do after they clear the place? They go check who this person was hanging out with, what websites did he visit, what kind of literature did he read. Why is that? Because that eventually is what shaped these killers into what they became. So this is it's exactly what happened in this week's parsha. How these bad influences, little by little, shaped these people, the people of Israel, who were praised last week for the knowledge, for their spirituality, because they allowed bad influence to enter to their lives. They ended up like this week's parsha. So this is an amazing reminder for all of us to be very careful and vigilant who we allow to be part of our lives, what kind of material we read, what kind of things we actually believe. Because at the end of the day, all that becomes who we are. And what we want is somehow to become what Israel was last week. People with morals, people who study Torah, and people who pay attention to their spiritual development. Shabbat Shalom.